I'm just going to ask a couple of more questions before we open the house for questions. Mr. Murli, I'm just going to ask, because I know there was a question to Mr. Mueller too, but we are used to, if you look at 20 years back in terms of skill sets which were required for people in terms of manufacturing process. We used to have traditionally welding, fitting, and then people learned about CNC manufacturing, then TPMs, TQMs, Six Sigma. It's an evolution. But today in a smart factory world, what are the skill sets which are required for the employees of the future factories? And where do you see as a gap in India today?
That's a loaded question. The future, because we don't know what the future factory is going to be, what they are going to manufacture. So what should be the skill sets is, we have to be a little speculative on that. Yeah, so basically, I think Mr. Mueller has already talked about the shop floor factory specialist, expert, has to understand data analytics, and the certain nuances that happen. If there are any exceptions, can he visualize that? Right. That's one great thing. Second thing is, when you make a system, you're not making a component, like a full car system you are making or a weapon system you are making, they should be able to visualize any issues coming up beyond that's programmed. Right? So can you hear some sound? I still remember when I was working with the earlier Tata Power, they asked us to develop a simulator for a power plant, and the general manager of the power plant came and told us that when you are doing a simulation, you are not making the sound right. So I said, what do you mean by that, sir? He said, when the huge alternator is spinning, if something goes wrong, I can listen to the sound and say that this is what is going wrong. I still remember my mother, who used to be with me in my car in the early younger days, and when I was doing something, she says, this is going to break down. Sound is different. Okay. So I remembered that. So these are things that we will not be able to visualize a priori. So a specialist in the factory floor, when something is manufactured, something is being made, can he listen to these sensors and say, yes, something is going wrong? So apart from that, this is something expert that's required. You need not many of them, few of them in the factory floor. But the general expertise is, yes, attention, okay, what are the warnings he's getting? So many of them are going to be automated, right? So slow and steady, we may remove the man from the floor, except some specialists who are watching it, right? What specialists we require is, when you design, in the design cycle, can we have somebody who understands how to be manufactured with the latest automation and can be easily manufactured, cost effectively manufactured with the least amount of defect, like zero defect. How can I achieve zero defect so that there is no inspection required and there is no rework required? No defect, no rework, no reinspection, right? So those manufacturing skills people may form part of the design team, and they may contribute to the design for manufacturing. Okay? So design is by not just making a prototype and making it work. It is one step ahead. Can it be manufactured in an automated fashion, defect-free, first time? Okay. So my speculation is that the future factory, manufacturing plant, like zero defect, zero man, of course there will be some few people watching from a remote place using virtual reality, seeing something happening beyond what is thought about, and press the stop button, nothing should go wrong, nothing should explode, right? So that could be the future factory, remotely controlled, remotely observed, no man. All the efforts have already gone into the design phase itself, for manufacturability, for maintainability, for replaceability, all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muralidharan. Can I request both Mr. Kalstenmuner and Mr. Shreyas Shibilal to be on the stage, please, for the Q&A. We open the floor for questions. I know there was a question from here for the previous session. Due to paucity of time, we moved out to the next session. So we can start. If we can have the mics, please. Yes, please.
My
Sir-
question is to Mr. Shreyas. When will an average Indian be able to actually go for an electronic car?
Um, so that's a good question. I think I think first of all it's important to realize that the Indian market, it's you said electric car, but 70% of the vehicles on the road today are 2 and 3 wheelers. That's really where the big market is right now. I think adoption, especially in 2 and 3 wheeler, I think we're really seeing it pick up right now. 4 wheelers. Um, because it is a smaller portion of the market, price points are a little bit higher. Subsidies do go some way in alleviating that barrier to be able to purchase a more expensive electric vehicle. But I think, in my view, I think serious adoption of 4 wheelers, mass adoption will probably take another, 5 to 7 years maybe to see some really to see adoption in large numbers.
Thank you, Shreyas. There was a lady, yes.
Sir, India we call this as Atmanirbhar Bharat. So my question, India is still an Atmanirbhar or Nirbhar regarding electric buses, which many new companies try to introduce in India. The software which they use is Dassault, which is a Spain-based software. And all the spare parts which they put it in the EV buses, it all get from China, and then they assemble and then they make it. So the cost goes up. So what are the actions we can take so that we can become an Atmanirbhar Bharat, made in India, make for India?
Thank you. It's an excellent question. Did you direct the question to anyone, or it's a generally to the panel?
Sorry, sir?
Did you direct the question to any one person on the panel, or anyone can answer?
Sir, anyone can answer.
Can I answer that if you don't mind? I'll add to it. Yeah. So Atmanirbhar Bharat is very key. So the electric car, electric vehicles, many things, many household goods, including your television and your sound systems and your cell phones, all of them need a lot of electronic components and a lot of embedded software, right? The electronic components, we don't make anything in India so far. All components are imported. So if you really want to reach Atmanirbhar Bharat, we need to make the electronic components in India. We start making electronic components in India. Okay? So that's the first step. So once you make that first step, then we should be able to write the embedded software, the real-time embedded software that is required to control them, which we are doing in an indirect fashion. We are making those basic components and getting it out, and comes back in a kit form back to us in the EV industry, okay, or in the many of the other industries that we work in the consumer industry. So first step is, let us go to the system level. As a bus level, we understand what to configure, what components to buy, make a bus, make it popular, then slowly change one by one indigenously. So over a period of time, we should be able to reach that. But if you start top down rather than bottom up. So that's the practice many countries employ. So that would be a good idea. Yeah, maybe.
So if I have to add, I think there are two aspects we have to look at it. One is the market need. So if you also look at traditionally old industry, how they developed, when you start an industry and a new product begins, I mean, one way I'm talking about, you have to depend a lot on how big is the market size and whether the industry can afford to invest as much to innovate from grounds up. That's one approach, and that's what you see. And once a critical mass and volume is achieved, a lot of localization within India as well will happen. That's one way. And that's how the industry has operated so far in most of the areas. The other way, if you look at, there are still some homegrown companies. I take the example of my own company, which is trying to also do top-down. What Mr. Murli said probably is not possible. So while we still import some components which are not at all available in India, the 90% of the work from the perspective of designing the user experience, I would say, not only the product, from that perspective to doing manufacturing, producing components, including software and firmware. So if you look at a product, there is no software which is not developed and designed by us. So I would say there are two ways to look at it. One, on one side, while you have to wait for a critical mass to come, before the localization is affordable economically, and that's what Mr. Murli spoke about, which will happen. On the second side, to look at it is some players taking bigger risks, doing it top down, probably looking at the larger picture of the future that someday it will achieve that critical mass. And when both of these come together, I think we will become Atmanirbhar.
Yeah. My name is Bakar. I'm from Recon Aqua Green Technologies. My question is to Muller. So you are mentioning that by 2030 and 2040, the manufacturing unit should run with or less manpower. So India maximum the contribution of manufacturing is SME and MSME. So what is your recommendation to the SME and MSMEs? Whether it should be they are good for automation, full automation, or partial automation?
Okay. So, I mean, it fits what I wanted to add on the comments, EV ecosystem, even what Sanjeev was saying. I mean, while we are talking as multinationals and assembly companies very much on this advanced manufacturing automation, I think if we want to be successful in electrification, we have to develop exactly MSMEs on advanced technologies. I'm not talking about automated vehicles and so on. I'm talking about investing in machines which are state of the art, where you don't need for one operator on the machine, 10 others doing visual inspections to assure quality. If we want to be successful in electrification, we need an extremely powerful supply base. Yeah, we have many suppliers, but compared to what I can see in China, and of course electrification went up there a decade back. I mean, they are front runners in this, even against Europe. The level of advanced technologies, the willingness to invest in state-of-the-art machines is much higher than I can see it in our supply base. And if this is not happening, we cannot be successful in Atmanirbhar Bharat. So first, when the PLI came, production-linked incentives for advanced automotive technologies, where we are participating also, and we are supporting this, I was thinking it's a good thing because the value add, which is focused at, is a good thing. But bringing it up to that levels, which is expected from the beginning, 50%, many of maybe the industries will not really step into it. I think in a very balanced way, if multinationals and supply base can work hand in hand on that with the right speed on deploying the value add, we can create something big. Without MSMEs, for multinationals also, who are the main contributors currently in the advanced automotive technologies, this will not happen. So for me, this is key. As you said, even for ICE, we are facing some problems to find the right suppliers, so still we are importing. And this is based on willingness to invest in state-of-the-art technologies. That's how I see it.
May I ask a question, please? This is regarding the electrical vehicles. I believe the density, energy density in the electrical vehicles has its efficiency has to improve. So would there be an option of using planetary gears to improve on the energy efficiency of electrical vehicles?
So in Bosch, if we look into, you mean in electrical drives?
In electrical vehicles, electrical device.
So I can only speak about electrical drives in this sense. These are normal gears, gears, no shift gears, and these are sufficient. These are sufficient, easy to manufacture, and here I see also a good opportunity to find the right supply base, which takes some time to develop in India, coming from normal gearboxes to the electrification. So we have no plans today to go into planetary gears, but I don't know what Aether is.
I think Shreyas also mentioned, if you look at the electric vehicles, there are very less number of moving parts. And if you look at the whole gear system itself is absent, except for a small part of belt and pulley, which is needed to drive. So, I mean, from my understanding, as of now, I do not see a big role of planetary gear system, what you're mentioning, playing a big role in EV industry. I don't know, Shreyas, if you want to add.
Yeah, from my understanding, the question was most around energy density and the need for it to improve. So I think one part of it is cell chemistries, but the other part of it is, I think, like my fellow panelists also mentioned, I think also has to do with efficiencies of other drivetrain components, specifically the motor, and also the voltage system that the vehicle uses. My impression is that most two-wheelers on the market today, they use a 48-volt system. So using a 72-volt or higher voltage system would also improve those efficiencies to some degree.
I have a question for Mr. Mahesh Kapri. You spoke about precision healthcare, and I recently read an article about GE, how it is transforming in the space of oncology for remote monitoring. So what kind of challenges are you facing, and what measures are GE taking in terms of compliance? And the follow-up question is, what do you see that scope in India? Thank you.
It's a very interesting question. This is something that is fast evolving. It's not there. If you talk about a little bit more specifics on what we are doing from precision health, how we are talking about, predicting, preventing, and making sure, we are able to really address the disease right up front. Of course, when you talk about challenges, one of the challenges when you are talking about very specific medicine, very specific to a patient, you need to be 100% sure, because a lot of thing is still not understood. How much ever machine learning you have, how much ever AI you have, we are talking about cops or specifics which can detect what is going on. Those bots cannot also be so predictable unless there is a human intervention. So I think that is probably the challenging area on what we can do. It's a fast evolving field, but the focus and the shift is towards getting more and more towards precision health.
Hi, I'm sorry, can I go next? My name is Jay, and I run a company called ROI Retrievers, and we do digital transformation for small, medium businesses. So the question is, Industry 4.0, digital transformation, does it end at the boundary of your enterprises, or do you extend it to your suppliers as well?
Well, as I said, we look at it end to end. So the supply chain itself, the digitization, we do also down to the suppliers. Yeah. So what we need to do is, of course, getting also the inventories, the supermarkets at the supplier fully transparent, building them into our systems. So this is one level of what we connect. Of course, also our supplier development team is sharing with the suppliers some kind of, let's say, very cheap kind of solutions. We have some, let's say, low-cost MES systems developed by Bosch, also Phantom, which is in the market. So let's say get into some easy kind of performance management based on data and performance. I think step by step it is required to step into this, to get the flavor of this. But before you do this, what I mentioned earlier, please have a look at that you have state-of-the-art machines itself before you start digitizing, because at the end you need to get performance and quality out of the machines. Digitalization can boost the performance of these, but cannot heal whatever, let's say, process flaws are in the system. And so I would recommend to do it stepwise in a very, very systematic and planned manner. But we are having our supply development team also bringing digital to the suppliers on a different level.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Mr. Mahesh,
Yeah,
would you
I
like to
think
add?
Mueller answered it extremely well. The strength of a supply chain is as good as the weakest link, as they call it, right? So if you are not going and addressing what your suppliers are seeing, they are your extended factories. And especially with the data, unless you are 100% sure, garbage in, garbage out, it makes no impact on, it's more of a nuisance than a value add. In terms of what we do to also, get your suppliers up to speed, absolutely every manufacturer, that is the focus. Mueller talked upon things that we are doing from a, sourcing standpoint, but even in digitization, one of the things is the sustainability. The different systems, different platforms, standalone apps, they have to be continually connected so that we have one data source and not have excellence of, silos. So that's one area which has to be addressed. And with the fast evolving 4G, 5G, some of these challenges will get addressed. One specific example, what I can give from a medtech is, we have what we call M-Live, which tells a supplier exactly at what time the truck should arrive at your docks so that the material can be unloaded versus lining up. So we can schedule it. They have an online visibility to what's happening in our manufacturing, and we have online visibility to when they should be delivering parts. Yes, definitely all these stuffs we have talked about, the industry 4.0 got to be for every manufacturing, and it includes our suppliers, but there is a gap to be caught up there.
One more point I would like to add. While when we speak about partners, we speak about suppliers, but I think we have to also start treating customer as a very important part of the value chain. And if you look at what we are trying to do is also become industry 4.0 savvy from the customer angle. So, and what I mean, so for example, one of the reasons why we put industry 4.0 is to drive performance, as Mr. Mulla explained. So the same we need to drive on the supplier side, but at the same time, we also need to drive on the customer side. Just to give you an example, with the kind of systems that we have on the scooters, Ether scooters, if you drive, you will at the end of the day also get on your app, you can see how was your performance while riding, where there are particular stretches of roads where you throttled it so bad that your battery went down. So can Industry 4.0 enable also the customer to decide on how he wants to experience and what kind of performance he wants to get out? So I think as an industry, we also need to start thinking, how do we bring customer in the whole ecosystem of Industry 4.0 to bring solutions which help them drive the performance?
Yeah, one.
So probably this is the last question we can take, and during the tea break, you can obviously have any more questions more directly.
So myself Kiran Joshi, and I am from Automotive Axle. So I used to take care of IoT in the CapEx department. So currently we have two of the lines which is IoT enabled. One is NX line, it's an assembly process, and one is housing line, where we have connected through our technology partner, Mrs. Wipro, and through PTC ThinkWorks platform. So we are the early implementers of IoT. In 2019, we started IoT in our plant, and up to 2020, and after pandemic, we suffered a lot because of sustainability. And currently, with respect to the sustenance, we are facing major issues where we are unable to trace it out, and this leads us to lag of project deadline, and we are not answerable to the customers. Second thing, in PTC ThinkWorks cloud platform, if anything goes wrong, suddenly we are unable to get the immediate solution. So since it's a production line, we can't stop the line, or we have to take the deviation. So how we can come out of this? And we are really, sincerely speaking, we are not answerable to customers, as the project deadline was around December, and we have lagged around 8 to 10 months.
Well, difficult to make a really deep analysis on your problem. I understood that...
You told me that mechanical engineer to digital science, data science transformation. So I am best example, seeing is believing. So basically I'm a mechanical engineer with data science background. So it is difficult for me to analyze the things and get the things done.
Yeah. So what we basically do at the end, I mean, it's right. I spoke about the people journey. Yeah? But if you're not capable of doing data analytics, it will not stop your line. It will only, lead to a situation where you're not using the full potential of what you can do out of data of the line. A line can be stopped if MES is not functioning. Yeah? If you're in a cloud, maybe even external cloud, we don't do that. I showed you that we have our own platform, we have our own MES system, and we have the own competencies around technology. We are not depending on externals. So, of course, MSMEs cannot do it. So they need to partner with somebody. You need to choose the right partner who gives you 24/7 support, that the MES system is not stopping your line. We had this also several times. I spoke about updating MES if you don't have standardized infrastructure, if you don't have software as a container. Then it takes a long time to really implement new versions and updates of MES systems. But this is resolved with a clear strategy of IT infrastructure. I have it on my slide. For this, you need experts, and we have them in-house. Of course, we have bigger departments here. We can afford this, but this is something you need to think through very early. Yeah, to have the right system and structure in place, and the major things of keeping a line running, you have to be in-house. Otherwise, I can only recommend build this competence. What I spoke is more making use of data. This needs a big change of current manufacturing engineers who run it in a different way.
Thank you, and thank you for all the audience for all the questions. I think we ran up on time, and we can see a red chart here saying time's up. So thank you a lot. If there are more questions, obviously you can take it offline during the tea break.
I have one last question.
Just in the interest of time, can you address during the tea break
This
to
is,
the...
this is the last one. That I request you so that we can close it now. It's a request.
Since
I was holding the mic.
I have to agree, so please go ahead.
Yeah. I have one basic question. I work for Mining Precision Bangalore. Considering the mobility, e-mobility transforming, and morning to evening we are discussing on the digital transformation. Currently, India is generating the enough power to capture all these requirements. Is it India is ready to capture all the electricity requirement which is required for the digital economy, what we are discussing now, in terms of the e-mobility or any other digital platforms today we are discussing? The concern what is coming to mind is, tomorrow the unit price of electricity should not go to the petrol 1 liter price. Today what we discussed.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's a good question. So we need more clean electric power. Not only that we need power, we need clean electric power. So for a long time, I was associated with Tata Power. We were a defense unit of Tata Power. So once in a while, I used to look at their, meetings and things like that. So India has a very ambitious plan to generate clean power. I repeat, generate clean power. So by the time we reach the next, so if you look at the graph of the power generation in India, it's growing up very fast. Yes, clean power costs a little more, but with the solar panels and other things, a lot of industries are coming up with cheap solar panels, means cost-effective solar panels. With this, India should be able to generate power, cheap, clean power soon for everybody. But the problem is how to reach into the remote places in India. So this concept of a microgrid is coming up. You generate your own power, right? So this microgrid concept is going to pick up soon. And worldwide, IEEE, which is a professional body of electrical electronic engineers, they're also propagating this concept of generating your own power at home. You don't buy power, so you don't have to pay anything. You use materials, solar panels, and other things by which you can reduce power and generate your own power. So soon meaning maybe another 10 years, you will generate your own power. Only the big industries will worry about their power, and you should be able to run your electric car efficiently with less power requirement. Maybe use hydrogen fuel cells to power your car.
Thank you. And we need to have Mr. Vijay run out of time because I've got already enough signals that I need to close the session. But thank you for being a fantastic audience.